Ben Fogle has put himself in some really dangerous situations around the world, but he says it was in rural Buckinghamshire that he actually nearly lost his life.
Yep, the adventurer is now calling for slower speed limits on country roads where the majority of road deaths in the UK occur. Jonathan Swain has been looking into this.
Well, this is a road with a 60-mile-an-hour speed limit. It's two-way, there are clear markings and good visibility. But this road, as you can see, is also a 60-mile-an-hour speed limit, but it's single track. It's windy, there are blind spots, there are hidden driveways. It's often used by horses, cyclists and children, and even Ben Fogle. The TV adventurer was running along the lane with his dog when a delivery van sped round a blind bend and skidded to a halt, just a few feet from Ben and his dog. He says his life flashed before his eyes. He now wants the council to reduce the speed limit on this road to 20 miles an hour before a serious or fatal accident happens.
And Ben Fogle joins us now. You would think that if people were driving on country roads, even if the speed limit is the national speed limit, 60 miles an hour, if you're approaching a kind of blind turn, you'd slow down a lot.
Well, I think this is one of the big problems, is that the majority, almost everyone in our village, drives probably an average of 18 miles an hour. I mean, for me, that feels too fast. So most of it is self-regulating, and actually the law says, even if it says it's 60 miles an hour, you have to be safe and in control. The problem is there's a rise of home deliveries now. There's a lot of delivery drivers who have to hit their targets, and they obviously have targets that are built in with a 60-mile-an-hour algorithm.
Right.
So the problem is that these poor delivery drivers, and I'm not blaming them, I really am not, have to hit their targets or they lose their job. So what's happened in our village is we've tried for years and years. Our local councillor has been trying to change it, but the local council, we actually fall within two boundaries, Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire. And Oxfordshire made a rule that any village that uses their road as a pavement, and this is an important distinction. So it is a road, but actually a 2012 law said that if that vulnerable road users, which is walkers, children, cyclists, runners, whoever has to use that road should have equal use of the road to cars, so that cars don't have the dominance. And the problem is, we use the road as a pavement. It's my pavement. So cars can drive at 60 miles an hour on my pavement.
I mean, people that live in bigger towns and cities might not be aware. One of the beautiful things about our countryside is very often villages have grown up about what would have been the main wagon route, then becomes a bigger road, then becomes a main road. But, of course, it still goes through the heart of the village, and there aren't pavements, as you say. So, you know, your situation must be experienced by hundreds of thousands of people, if not more.
I have had so many people getting in touch with me on this. And it should, you know, you were talking about this earlier, it shouldn't take a celebrity to try and make a change here. And I'm really hoping I can change what happens in our village, but there are so many other people that are experiencing the same. We moved to the countryside so my children could walk from house to house. I don't want to put them in a car. The whole point is to be outside. And I feel like an irresponsible father letting my children walk along our pavement. And the problem is that the local council have responded and they've said they think the speed limit is appropriate. They haven't reported enough crashes. We've had so many crashes in our village, but no one, when they crash, are going to admit to speeding.
You would
No.
it doesn't listen to local people, then.
And there is an irony, isn't there, for you? Because, of course, you have nearly died in so many situations around the world, frostbite, strange flesh-eating diseases, climbing Everest. But you yourself nearly died. It stopped just in front of you, outside your house.
Well, I don't want to be too dramatic about it, but it really was a very, very close call. And it's one of many, by the way. But this one was the straw that broke the camel's back. I feel that I want to live in a place where we feel safe walking from house to house, which is why I moved there. And of course, you know, this 20-mile-an-hour speed limit that has been introduced in many areas has been very controversial, especially the imposition in Wales. A lot of people don't like the blanket ban. So it's almost given 20-mile-an-hour limits a bad name. And the irony is that for many, 20 has been introduced in an area where arguably it's not needed and arguably not wanted. We all want it. Every single person, or the majority, I wouldn't speak for every person in our village, but 95% want a 20. But the local council and therefore the Department of Transport have said it's not necessary.
OK.
But we know.
Shall I just give their statement?
Yes, I'd love to hear it.
They said our speed limits are set against Department for Transport guidance. We remain responsive to changes in local road and traffic conditions, but cannot agree to every request received. What do you make of that?
Well, our local council member has tried many times and has failed. Because when they do, and just so I can quickly, sorry to interrupt, but just so I can explain why, what they do is they set up a way of establishing the average speed limit. And the average speed limit through our village is something like 26 miles an hour. So it is low. The problem is that they don't catch those 2 or 3 speeding vans that come through, and it takes one speeding van to actually kill someone. So we are self-regulating already. What we want is that it's put in so that in the algorithm matrix that goes into sat-navs, those people who don't know the village, who don't know how dangerous the roads are, will be alerted and will drive at a sensible speed limit, like most of us do already.
Well, my advice for the next stage of the campaign is hold a public meeting in the village. Get the residents there. Invite not just the councillor, but the local member of parliament, which I think is John Howell, who's the Henley MP. We could check that. Get him to listen to you. Get him then to write to the chief executive of the council and say, listen to local people. He'll come. That's how you can unblock this. I'm not saying they'll change it, but you just got to keep upping the pressure. You're doing that now, but get your MP involved, I'd say.
Perfect. And this is advice for everyone watching this as well, because I know there will be lots of people who have exactly the same thing. Thank you very much.
Hard for them to ignore the concerns of the villagers.